Commander Sarah Chen stared at the holographic cards floating above the table and knew she was finished. 3 cycles of hauling medical supplies to outer colonies gone. Her ship, the Morning Star, her crew's only home, about to belong to someone else. Lord Vexthor of the Crithian Empire spread his forearms wide, his crystalline exoskeleton glittering under the casino lights of Nexus Station. "Full celestial flush," he announced, his voice carrying that particular smugness reserved for those born into wealth and power. "Read them and weep, mammal." Sarah's cards dissolved into light particles as the table registered her loss. She felt her stomach drop. The Morning Star wasn't just a ship. It was her crew's livelihood. 23 people depending on her. And she'd just gambled away their future on a hand she should have folded 10 minutes ago. "You cheated." The words came out before Sarah's brain could stop them. The entire casino went silent. Every species present, from the methane-breathing Zalarians to the crystalline hexapods, turned to stare. "You didn't accuse a Crithian lord of cheating. Not unless you had evidence, a death wish, or both." Vexthor's compound eyes narrowed, his mandibles clicking in what Sarah had learned to recognize as amusement mixed with offense. "You dare question my honor, human? My family has held noble rank for 17 generations. We do not cheat at games. We simply win." Sarah stood up, her chair scraping against the deck plating. 8 months of stress, of watching her crew go hungry while nobles like Vexthor played games with ships and lives, finally broke through. "Your family's been cheating for 17 generations then. Those cards were marked. I saw the UV signatures." She hadn't seen anything. She was bluffing, grasping at straws, buying time to think. But Vexthor's exoskeleton flushed a deep purple, which every xenobiologist knew meant rage in Crithian physiology. "Then I invoke Carthex," Vexthor said coldly. "Trial by combat. Tomorrow, noon cycle, main arena. We shall see if your accusations hold weight when your blood stains the sands." Oh no. Oh stars, no. Sarah knew about Carthex. Everyone in the outer systems knew about it. It was the Crithian method of settling disputes, legally binding under Galactic Treaty Article 47. 2 beings enter, 1 leaves victorious. The loser, if they survived, forfeited everything. "I accept," Sarah heard herself say. Her survival instinct was screaming, but her pride was louder. Vexthor smiled, showing rows of serrated teeth. "Excellent. I shall enjoy teaching you the price of insulting Crithian nobility. Perhaps when I'm done, your crew will learn to show proper respect to their betters." Back in her quarters, Sarah pulled up the legal documentation for Carthex. The station's AI, a bureaucratic entity called Vera, materialized as a hologram. "Commander Chen, you have 18 hours until your scheduled combat. Per regulations, I must inform you of the rules." Sarah poured herself something that claimed to be whiskey. "Hit me with it." "All technological weapons are prohibited. This includes energy weapons, projectile weapons, explosive devices, electromagnetic pulse generators, plasma cutters, sonic disruptors, gravity manipulators, and molecular destabilizers." "Okay, so what can I use?" "Natural biological capabilities only. Combatants may employ their species' inherent physical attributes. All equipment will be scanned. Any manufactured weapons will result in immediate disqualification and criminal charges." "Okay, so what can I use?" "Natural biological capabilities only. Combatants may employ their species' inherent physical attributes. All equipment will be scanned. Any manufactured weapons will result in immediate disqualification and criminal charges." Sarah felt the whiskey burn down her throat. "Vera, what are Crithian natural capabilities?" "Crithians possess titanium-reinforced endoskeletons, retractable blade arms capable of cutting through steel, armored exoskeleton plating, enhanced strength approximately 8 times human baseline, and accelerated healing factors." "And humans. Humans possess endurance and problem-solving abilities." "That's it? That is the extent of combat-relevant biological advantages in your species, yes. Commander, Pern survival odds are calculated at 4.3%. I would recommend forfeiting." Sarah laughed, a bitter sound. "If I forfeit, we lose the ship anyway, and I get banned from 60% of stations in this sector for dishonoring the challenge." "If you fight, you lose your life with 95.7% probability. So you're saying there's a chance." The discovery. Sarah emptied her pockets onto her bunk. Multi-tools, data chips, protein bars, her old Earth military ID card. She picked up the ID card, turning it over in her hands. It was made of carbon composite, a material developed for military durability. Lightweight, flexible, but stronger than steel. The edges were already slightly sharp from years of use. Opening packages, scraping ice off viewboards. An idea began forming. A stupid, desperate, probably suicidal idea. Vera, Sarah said slowly. The rules say no manufactured weapons, right? Correct. But what about repurposed personal items? The AI paused. Repurposed personal items are not classified as manufactured weapons if they were not created with the intent of causing harm. Sarah grabbed her toolkit. Then we're going to have a very interesting definition of personal item. The sharpening. For the next 16 hours, Sarah worked. She used every abrasive surface in her quarters. The textured floor plating, the rough edge of her storage locker, the industrial-grade sandpaper she kept for maintenance work. She scraped, filed, and honed that ID card into something that could cut. Her fingers bled, her shoulders ached. But slowly, painfully, the card transformed. The edge grew sharper, refined to a molecule-thin blade. She tested it on a protein bar wrapper. It sliced clean through. Tested it on the synthetic leather of her chair. Clean cut. Her door timed. It was Marcus, her first officer. Captain, you don't have to do this. We can find another ship. Start over. Sarah didn't look up from her work. With what money, Marcus? We're broke. This is all we've got. This is suicide. This is human ingenuity. She held up the sharpened card, light gleaming off its edge. They want to fight with natural advantages? Fine. Our natural advantage is turning anything into a weapon. Our ancestors sharpened Roth, Marcus. They turned bones into knives, states into spears. We didn't evolve claws or armor. We evolved brains that could make them anyway. Marcus stared at the card. That's actually insane enough to work. Or get me killed. Either way, at least I'll go down fighting. The arena was packed beyond capacity. Word had spread across Nexus Station. A human was actually going through with Carthex against a Crithian lord. It was going to be a slaughter, and everyone wanted to watch. Sarah walked into the preparation chamber, wearing simple combat fatigues. No armor, no gear, just her and the ID card tucked into her boot. The crowd's reaction when she emerged was immediate. Laughter. Actual laughter. Some species were placing last-minute bets. The odds against her had actually gotten worse. Vexthor entered from the opposite side, wearing ceremonial armor that probably cost more than Sarah's entire ship. His blade arms were extended, leaning, gleaming, and freshly sharpened. Any last words, Commander? Vexthor called across the arena. Sarah pulled her hands from her pockets, standing relaxed. Yeah, 3 things. First, never underestimate a species that conquered its own planet before leaving it. Second, humans didn't evolve to be fair. We evolved to win. And third, watch your joints. I hear they're the weak point. The scan. Vera's hologram appeared at the center of the arena. Combatants, prepare for mandatory security scan. Blue light washed over Vexthor first. Combatant 1, natural weapons detected. Blade arms, reinforced exoskeleton, enhanced musculature, all within acceptable parameters for Crithian biology. Status compliant. The light turned to Sarah. She felt it crawl across her skin, invasive and thorough. Her heart hammered. Everything depended on this moment. Combatant 2, no manufactured weapons detected. No technological enhancements detected. No prohibited substances detected. Vera paused. Sarah held her breath. Personal identification card detected. Composition, carbon composite plastic. Classification, non-weaponized personal property. Status compliant. The crowd murmured in confusion. Vexthor's mandibles clicked. The human brings nothing? Not even a blade? Didn't need one, Sarah said quietly. Vera's voice boomed across the arena. Combatants, take positions. Combat will commence in 30 seconds. Victory conditions, voluntary yield, incapacitation, or death. Medical teams standing by. Nexus Station assumes no liability for injury sustained during legally sanctioned combat. May the strongest survive. First blood. Begin. Vexthor charged immediately, all 4 arms extended, blade arms singing through the air. Sarah dove sideways, rolled, came up running. The crowd booed. They wanted blood, not chase scenes. But Sarah had studied Crithian combat footage for the past 16 hours. She knew Vexthor's species was built for power, not endurance. His attacks were devastating but burned energy fast. She just needed to survive long enough for him to slow down. Vexthor pivoted, faster than something his size should move, and slashed again. Sarah barely ducked under it, felt the blade arm whistle past her ear. Too close. Way too close. "Running is all your pathetic species knows," Vexthor warned. "You fled Earth when it became too difficult. You flee conflicts across the galaxy. Cowards, every one of you." That stung, mostly because parts of it were true. But Sarah kept moving, kept her breathing steady, watched his patterns. Crithians telegraphed their strikes with subtle shifts in their exoskeleton plates. She just needed to... There. Vexthor wound up for a massive forearm strike, leaving his left flank exposed for a fraction of a second. Sarah changed direction mid-run, came in low, reached into her boot and pulled out the sharpened ID card. She slashed across the joint, where his armor plating connected to his secondary arm. The card cut deep. Purple blood sprayed across the arena sand. Vexthor screamed. The crowd went absolutely insane. Half were cheering, half were screaming about fraud and deception, and the betting boards exploded into chaos as odds recalculated in real time. Sarah danced backward, the ID card now visible in her hand, purple Crithian blood dripping from its edge. Vexthor clutched his wounded arm, compound eyes wide with genuine shock. What is that?" "Military ID card, circa 2247, Sarah said, circling him. "Carbine composite construction. We used them because they were nearly indestructible. Also makes a pretty good knife if you know how to sharpen it." "That is cheating." "That's human ingenuity, your lordship. Vera already scanned it. Compliant, remember. It's not a manufactured weapon. It's a repurposed personal item. Big difference." Vexthor's exoskeleton flushed deeper purple. Rage. Pure, unfiltered rage. "You think you've won? You've merely angered me, mammal." What happened next was less a duel and more a lesson in why humans survived the evolutionary lottery despite being physically inferior to almost everything on Earth. Vexthor came at Sarah with everything he had, all four arms slashing in coordinated patterns that would have shredded a lesser opponent. But Sarah had spent 8 months in the outer colonies, where you learned to fight dirty or you didn't survive. She went for the eyes, throwing handfuls of arena sand she'd scooped up during her roll. Vexthor recoiled, temporarily blinded. Sarah used the opening to slash at his knee joint, another weak point in Crithian armor. The card bit deep. More purple blood. Vexthor swept blindly with his blade arms. One caught Sarah across the ribs, cutting through her fatigues and scoring a line across her skin. Pain exploded through her side, but she had worse. Bar fights on Titan Station had taught her pain was just information, and right now it was telling her to move. She dropped into a slide, passed between Vexthor's legs, and slashed both heel joints as she went. The Crithian lord stumbled, one leg giving out briefly. The crowd turns. Something shifted in the arena. The laughter had stopped. Species who'd never seen a human fight were witnessing something they didn't expect. Adaptability in real time. Sarah wasn't stronger, she wasn't faster, she wasn't better armed. But she was learning with every exchange, adjusting her tactics, exploiting weaknesses. A group of humans in the crowd started chanting her name. Then some Zolarians joined in, their methane-synthesized voices creating an eerie harmony. Even a few hexapods were clicking their approval. Vexthor, bleeding from multiple joints, breathing hard, realized what was happening. He was losing. Not just the fight, but the crowd, his honor, everything. "You fight without dignity," he snarled. "I fight to win," Sarah shot back. Big difference. The dirty tricks. Sarah reached into her pocket and pulled out a handful of protein bar wrappers, the shiny metallic kind that reflected light. She threw them into the air between her and Vexthor. The arena lights caught them, creating a brief but blinding cascade of reflections. Vexthor's compound eyes, designed to track fast movement, overloaded. He swung wildly. Sarah wasn't there anymore. She'd circled around to his wounded side, the one where his secondary R was hanging useless and bleeding. She didn't go for the kill. She went for the humiliation. Using the ID card like a precision scalpel, she cut the straps from holding his ceremonial armor. The expensive plates clattered to the arena floor, leaving Vextor exposed. The crowd roared. "You want to know what humans are really good at?" Sarah called out, her voice carrying across the arena. "It's not strength. It's not speed. It's taking whatever we have and making it enough. We climbed out of caves with nothing but sharp rocks and stubbornness. We crossed oceans on wooden planks. We left our planet in tin cans with chemical rockets. You think your natural advantages scare us?" She slashed again, this time cutting the ceremonial sash across his chest, the one marking his family lineage. It fell to the ground like a discarded rag. "We've been fighting things bigger and badder than us since before we invented writing. And we're still here." Vexthor lunged with desperate fury, all pretense of noble combat abandoned. It was exactly what Sarah was waiting for. She sidestepped, grabbed one of his blade arms, and used his own momentum against him. Basic judo, but effective. Vexthor crashed into the arena wall hard enough to crack his exoskeleton. Before he could recover, Sarah was on him. She pressed the sharpened edge of her ID card against the soft tissue at his throat, right where the exoskeleton plates didn't quite meet. "Yield," she said quietly. Only Vexthor could hear her now. "Yield, and you walk away with your life. Keep fighting, and we find out if carbine composite can cut through Crithian windpipes." Vexor's eyes met hers. For the first time, she saw real fear there. Not fear of death, but fear of losing to a species he'd considered beneath him. He choked out. "Speak up," Sarah pressed slightly harder. "The crowd can't hear you." "I yield." Vexthor's voice echoed across the suddenly silent arena. "I yield to the human." Victory. Vera's hologram appeared instantly. Combatant 1 has yielded. Victory, Commander Sarah Chen. Per Karthik's protocols, all disputed property returns to the victor. Additionally, as penalty for the challenge, Combatant 1 must surrender one asset of equal value. Sarah stepped back, lowering her makeshift weapon. Purple blood stained the card, but it was still intact, still sharp. "The Morning Star is mine again," she said. "And I'll take his flagship, the Crystalline Dawn, as the penalty." The crowd erupted. Cheers, boos, the sound of credits changing hands as bets settled. Sarah walked to the center of the arena, held up her bloodied ID card, and addressed the assembled species. "You want to know what humanity's deal is? You want to know why we're still relevant in a galaxy full of species stronger, faster, and better equipped than us?" The arena quieted, every being leaning forward to hear. "It's because we don't play by your rules. We can't. We lose every time. So we make our own rules. We improvise, we adapt, we overcome." She held up the ID card higher. "This was never meant to be a weapon. It was supposed to help me buy groceries and open doors. But when I needed it to be something else, I made it something else. That's what humans do. You give us a problem, we turn it into a solution. You give us a limitation, we turn it into an opportunity. You ban weapons?" She smiled. "We sharpen our credit cards." The human section of the crowd was on its feet, chanting. Even species who'd never met a human before were making sounds of approval. Marcus was crying in the front row, holding up a sign that read, "That's my captain." We didn't evolve claws, so we invented knives. We didn't evolve wings, so we built airplanes. We didn't evolve for space, so we built ships anyway. And when someone tells us we can't win, we find a way to win anyway. She pointed at Vextor, still slumped against the wall, being attended by medical teams. "Let this be a lesson to anyone who thinks humanity is weak because we're soft. We're not weak. We're creative, and creativity is the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy." The aftermath. An hour later, Sarah stood in the docking bay between her two ships, Morning Star, her old reliable freighter, and the Crystalline Dawn, a Crithian luxury vessel worth more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. Marcus approached, carrying medical supplies. "You should let the docs look at that cut." Sarah waved him off. It's superficial. I've had worse. You fought a Crithian lord with a credit card and won. That's going to be in history books, Captain. Good. Maybe next time some noble decides to cheat at cards, we'll remember what happened to the last one who tried. She pulled out her ID card and looking at it in the docking bay lights. The edge was notched and stained, the magnetic strip damaged beyond repair, but her name was still visible. Commander Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Forces, retired. You know, it's funny, she said. I can't even use this to buy groceries anymore, removing the chip when I sharpened it. Marcus laughed. Small price to pay for legendary status. Yeah, I suppose so. The legend glows. Within a week, the story had spread across every station, every colony, every trading post in the sector. Humans everywhere started carrying old credit cards, ID badges, and plastic keycards. Not because they needed weapons, but because Sarah Chen had reminded them what humanity really was, a species that refused to accept limitations. Vextor quietly left Nexus Station, his honor shattered, his flagship gone. Rumor had it he'd retired from public life, unable to face the shame of losing to a mere human. But Sarah knew the truth. He hadn't lost to a human. He'd lost to human ingenuity, to thousands of years of evolution to prioritize brain power over physical power, creativity over brute force. She kept the ID card, mounted it in a display case in the Morningstar's bridge, right where everyone could see it. And whenever someone asked about it, she'd smile and tell them the story of the day she won a duel with nothing but a sharpened piece of plastic and the audacity of her species. Because that's what humans did. They turned the impossible into inevitable, one stupid idea at a time.